The only thing I enjoyed, I'm sorry, but the only thing I enjoyed was McCoy getting his comeuppance
so
from
good.
Spock
Yeah.
saying, "I'm sick of your bullying and your name calling and I'm sick of your shit." That was the only thing that was very satisfying to me.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk.
Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on?
I'm James Kirk. These people are my friend and my shipmate. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that?
James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas.
Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Hey, are you still there? Is everybody, did we all make it? If you're hearing this, welcome to Humanist Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And we survived the eclipse, ascension to heaven, or whatever people thought that nonsense was going to be. We're still here, everybody.
Woohoo! Everybody update your Facebook status and say that you made it through the, whatever that is, that disaster. What do we do?
It was going to be
march yourself safe. We've marked ourselves.
Yes, it was going to be Armageddon during the eclipse, and nope, we're all still here.
Scientists predict this stuff all the time. We know when the next 100 eclipses are going to be just because of math.
Right. But I appreciate the reminder to think about, like, this is how, humanity pre-science would have seen these things as like omens from God and stuff, and been like really freaked the fuck out when the sky goes dark in the middle of the day.
Oh yeah, just for a few minutes, and they probably freaked out, and
so,
I get it.
Prehistoric people, that would have scared the shit out of them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I should ask, I know the answer, but for the audience sake, did you travel anywhere to try to get closer to totality?
Me?
To see the eclipse?
No, I was stuck on calls pretty much the entire time.
I had to work. There were schools in Florida that closed.
Are you kidding? Mm-hmm. And they were not directly in the path, were they?
I don't know. Maybe part of, I don't know.
So the whole thing with science, they can predict this stuff. Now we're pretty good at it. And in like 2029, April 13th, 2029.
Is that the one that comes over us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been talking about this asteroid named Apophis, which is like the god of, it's an Egyptian god of something really bad. They named it Apophis a long time ago. And on April 13th of 2029, it's going to like brush the Earth's atmosphere. So it's literally, our satellites are a certain height up in the sky. Mm-hmm. It's going to come underneath those.
Whoa.
It is going to come very close to Earth. And on that day, if you're in Europe, you might be able to see it visibly from the sky. And people are booking up hotel rooms and stuff to try to see it.
So this recent eclipse, not the apocalypse, perhaps it's this asteroid. So we'll all go to Europe and, prepare to meet our maker.
Yeah. And I'm like totally on board. I would totally book a hotel room. But hotel rooms have already been booked up because hopefully if they're not off by like a centimeter, when Kirk and the team were trying to divert that one asteroid.
Yes.
I mean, if they're not off by a few, whatever, it won't hit us and we'll just get to see something cool in the night sky. Otherwise, we need to have a plan of someplace else to go on this planet.
Well, having a plan to have someplace else to go. If you could choose any time in the past, be able to step through a doorway, where do you go? When do you go?
Oh.
No time. Okay. This is the thing that reminds me that as bad as things are for a lot of people today, things right now are better than they have ever been in the history of history.
Well, I mean, we can say that looking back because we're in right now,
Right.
and people back then don't know anything else. They don't have anything to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
So
where would you go?
Okay. Interesting question, because in past jobs, when they've had this question as this get together,
Oh, I hate them fucking icebreaker questions.
Icebreaker question, and I'm typically the only Black person on the team. They ask me, where would I go in history? And I just want to scream at them, where the fuck do you think I'd be safe?
Right?
Like you guys are going to be fine wherever you choose to go. But where the fuck is a Black person in history ever gonna be like okay and happy and whatever, you know? So
you'd have to go back to the planet's ice age where there were no other people to
exactly
ruin your life.
But if I'm not giving a politically correct answer, and if I knowing what I know now, I would go back to Africa pre-colonization, and I would arm these motherfuckers to the teeth, and I would be like, there are some people coming.
Yep.
They don't mean well. We need to get them before they get us. We need to prepare. When they hit our shores, we need to fight back. I would tell the indigenous people of what we now know as America, just the same thing.
Yep.
I would fucking change history if I could. I would tell anyone who listens.
That's a great answer.
So
I don't have an answer. I would not go in this is so my daughter and I play Would You Rather a lot while we're, sitting in the school drop off waiting for her friends. And, would you rather go somewhere in the past or go somewhere in the future? That kind of question comes up from time to time. And, there are like touristy things that I would do in the past, events that I would go back and see and stuff like that. But to like pick a time to go live in, no thanks.
No.
I'm a let's go to the future person. I'll go visit 20 and you never know, you get to 2078 and the earth could be gone because we obliterated ourselves.
Yeah, or Apophis came and
yeah.
Or like you said, somebody hit the red button and because of somebody said something wrong and somebody's like, fuck this.
But for my money, there's no chance of things being better going backwards.
No, for sure.
Well, let's step through the time portal into Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 23, All Our Yesterdays.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
KSM have beamed down to Sarpedon, a Class M planet in orbit of a star that's hours away from going nova, in search of the civilized humanoid species that reportedly inhabits this planet, only to find everyone has vanished. Dun, dun, dun.
They materialize in a room and there's nobody around. And then they see this older gentleman that's like puttering around, and he's like, please state the nature of the That's exactly the vibe I got. He's just puttering around in the library, and he's the only one.
Yeah. This is TOS, the librarian, played by Ian Wolfe. Wolfe was in a bunch of television. He was Reverend Elcott in the 1954 Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. It was probably one of the more well-known things.
I remember the 80s. They remade that. It was like a musical sort of thing for TV. I remember that, but
Wagon Train, The Twilight Zone, Petticoat Junction. It's one we don't see very often. Bonanza, Gunsmoke, all the hits.
Yep, all the westerns.
So they walk into this library area where this ATOS guy is, and he's like, shh. Today I learned that this script was written by Jean Lisette Ariste, who was a librarian at UCLA at the time that she wrote this script.
Interesting.
And I also never realized that ATOS is literally A to Z. How you might search for things in a library.
Oh my God.
Right?
Wow. A to Z.
A to Z.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's cute, guys. Okay.
So I wasn't sure at this point, but A to Z seems like some kind of computer program or a holo or a robot or something, because he's very surprised to see people living here, given that everybody else left a long, long time ago. So he seems like some program that's been left on.
And he says, a library has served no purpose unless somebody's using it. Butterflies in the sky. Read the goddamn book, people.
Read the books they don't want you to. That's where the good stuff is. Oh shit, they're coming. Read banned books!
And Kirk is like, where did everybody go? And ATOS takes this as you looking for someone specific? I'm sorry, I can't tell you if you're looking for somebody specific. And McCoy's like, no, just in general, where did everyone go? ATOS is kind of just being really sketchy and can't answer a straight question. He's like, well, maybe I can help. Come this way, please. And they walk away, but then another ATOS steps out. And that's when I'm like, okay, what the fuck is
Here we
going on?
go. This is the beloved Star Trek comedy, right? They walk around the aisle and there's another ATOS.
And this guy's like, can I help you? Like, as if you didn't just talk to, the other me a minute ago.
And Kirk's like, we just have a couple of questions that we need answered, specifically about recent history. So this A to Z refers them over to the desk, where, of course, comedically sits another A to Z.
And this guy seems like really just irritated with him.
We learned that Mr. A to Z knew of the inevitable Nova and saw to it that everyone escaped to safety. Again, wherever they wanted to go, up to each individual. Kirk's like, hang on a sec. I gotta bust this lyric just to be sure. Will the real Mr. A to Z please stand up?
So, won't the real Slim Shady please stand up? Please stand up? Please stand up.
How can you do a spoken word version of a rap song?
Oh, didn't we just do an episode of
We just did. That seems to be happening a lot lately.
They are running out of shit. Okay.
And McCoy has scanned this one, and he's the real one, all right. And once again, the Enterprise scanners failed to detect him.
Yeah, they did say that they didn't find anyone on the planet, and then here he sits.
Yep.
But the guy, he says, you guys are really late. Where have you been?
This is all revealed to us in breadcrumbs, kind of one at a time. But essentially, this is a library, which is the record of the planet's history. And each person is expected to rifle through the card catalogs, which aren't actually cards, but almost like these thick CD-looking things long before CDs were ever a dream.
Yeah, I think it was the first iteration of a CD.
Yeah.
But it's like an inch thick.
Yeah. And each of these CDs has a time period that they can choose to escape to. So Kirk is looking at a CD of an old street with horse-drawn carriages, and McCoy's CD has some kind of frozen Arctic area on it.
Mm-hmm.
Spock tries to get A to Z to explain this big wall-sized computer, which A to Z calls the Atavachron, because, of course, with time travel, we have to have something with cron somewhere in it. A to Z makes a big deal here about having to prepare them before they go through the Atavachron, but suddenly we hear a scream, and Kirk goes running through a doorway, and he flashy light things into an old-timey street.
And then he's gone.
Followed not long after by Spock and McCoy, who end up in a frozen wasteland. Now, separated in time, we're going to be jumping back and forth between these two times in the planet's history. In the Ice Age, McCoy and Spock are frantic about trying to find the captain, but also they need heat and shelter. Kirk arrives in the middle of a winch getting tossed around what looks like 17th century England or something.
Yeah, she's serving 17th century vagabond realness. And she's getting tossed around by two guys that look like they're straight out of the Three Musketeers with the feather in their hat and the fencing sword.
And Kirk, of course, finds himself in the middle of a sword fight for her honor or whatever.
Right. He assumes that she's innocent, and she's not, but she's been accused of basically pickpocketing.
After besting the Musketeers, this wench starts talking. And this is a dig at Cockney, right?
Oh my God. It is.
She's talking like that Voyager episode where Chakotay is all the fathoms, the nemesis or whatever, but also with like drunk Cockney attached to it.
It was her attempt at like Scottish or something. It was the worst. And she was saying terms that I'd never heard of.
Mm-hmm. Kirk's like, look, lady, I can't understand anything you're saying. You see, I'm from America, but we got to get you back to the library and have McCoy treat those bruises. But when he looks back to the place where he appeared, it's just a brick wall. Now, this is apparently some kind of magic brick wall, because when he stands next to the brick wall, he and Spock and McCoy can hear each other somehow. The physics of this didn't make sense to me.
Me either, because like once you step through a time portal, why are you able to hear anything from, and it has to be at that certain spot. So McCoy calls out Jim, and then Kirk happens to hear him near the brick wall, and he's like, "Bones, Spock!" And of course, they can hear each other, so they're talking to each other over 5,000 years or however. And they learn that they both have gone to some other place in the past, and this is how everyone escaped. But then, to Kirk's misfortune, the woman thinks that they're spirits that she's hearing when she hears Bones and Spock's voice. And Kirk's like, no, these are friends of mine. So then she basically accuses him of talking to spirits, and here come the people that he had already escaped from, the Three Musketeers and the rest of the gang.
Whole angry mob with their torches and pitchforks.
And she's stirring it up and saying he's a witch. And I'm like, great.
The Musketeers charge Kirk with thievery and purse cutting. But again, McCoy and Spock's voices are heard through the brick wall. And now there's a big audience who all heard it and can corroborate each other's stories. And everybody thinks it's spirits. So they drag Kirk away. Meanwhile, Spock and McCoy have to go look for shelter. They've taken the foam rock playset this week and set up a big industrial fan, and they're dumping like metric fuck tons of fake snow into this. There's, that scene in the old stop motion Rudolph?
No,
right? The classic Rudolph movie.
Did I ever tell you why I don't like
snowstorms?
I don't like that?
No, tell me why you don't like that. What?
Because I was terrified of that fucking Yeti thing. I was terrified of that when I was little. Terrified.
Wow.
Terrified. And I still have feelings when I watch it.
Wow. That is a deep core memory, man.
Yeah.
Wow. But that's the snowstorm that's happening on this planet. McCoy collapses to the ground with frostbite to the face and hands. He can't feel his feet, and he tries to get Spock to go on alone.
Tries to do that by calling him names.
Yeah.
So he's like, leave me here, you stubborn, thick-headed Vulcan. And of course, Spock is not going to do that. So, but at that time, a figure appears covered with animal fur, doesn't say shit, just looks at him and then turns away. We can't see their face. And so I guess that was their cue to follow to safety.
So they arrive in this cave that has some beds set up, very home-like. This isn't Ice Age. This is the Flintstones.
Yeah. It's warm down there, apparently.
Yeah. Spock gets McCoy onto a bed and covers him up with his thick animal fur. The figure we saw in the snowstorm takes down the hood, and it's this week's Star Trek sex object, Zarabeth.
I was like, I know that face anywhere. Mariette Harley, she was on so much stuff. The things that I remember her on the most are Little House on the Prairie,
Mm-hmm.
And the Hulk, I think.
Yep.
Was she on the Rockford Files too? I don't know.
She was in 10 episodes of One Life to Live.
Yeah.
Bob Newhart Show, Barnaby Jones. All right, children.
Everybody's
Last week on Barnaby Jones. MASH. And you might know her from Encino Man.
I've seen that movie, but was she his mom? I think she was his mom when he disappeared. Or no. Sorry.
I have no idea. I didn't write that part down. No, but I didn't write down who she was.
Okay.
And she's still at it, playing several roles in the comedy series Fireside Chat with Esther. Have you heard of that? Streaming on Netflix or something?
No.
No, she's in, yeah.
Good to know she's still kicking. I really liked her.
Yeah. Well, she's pretty intrigued by Spock. Everything about him is strange, and it appears she knows about the time portal.
Yeah.
Interesting.
She asked if they're prisoners too.
So apparently someone named Zor Khan sends people here when he wants to disappear them.
And she says, didn't you come to the time portal? And he's like, we did, but it was an accident. We're not prisoners.
She kind of thinks she's going a bit mad here because she's pretty confidently figured out that Spock is not only not from this time, but also not from this world. And since their people don't have space travel, these ideas were only available to her in early novels and television sci-fi shows set on foam rock playsets. But Spock insists he is quite real and she is not imagining it, and he has to take her by the hands and shake her up a little bit to kind of get through to her, and that ends up with them very close.
And yeah, she's been there for so long, but at least she is concerned about McCoy lying in the next room. Back in the 17th century, they've put Kirk pretty much in jail, and they use some terms that I have never heard, like mort.
Mm-hmm.
They call the woman is the mort, which I don't even know what that is, and then they're calling Kirk her henchman.
Yeah.
So they're both in jail. And there's this dude dressed in a robe, long hair. He's, like an authority figure. He's questioning Kirk, asking him where he's from. And for some reason, Kirk says an island called Earth.
Yeah.
Guy doesn't know where the hell he's talking about.
Little poetic, but okay.
And Kirk is like, I don't know that woman. I have nothing to do with I did not have sexual relations with that woman. I don't know her.
These allegations are false. And I need to go back to work.
And the judge is like, so you deny being her accomplice? And he's like, look, I was in the library reading, and immediately there's this look upon the judge's face, that recognition when he says the word library. So Kirk is like, you know what this is, don't you? And he's like, okay, maybe you are telling the truth. But then the bitch over across the hall starts yelling, you're a witch. And it sounds like even this time period where they burned what do you do with witches? You burn witches. And so the judge actually believes him because he knows what the library is, but won't really say.
So the judge sends for someone learned in witchcraft to come finish this investigation, and he storms out.
He doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And I'm thinking, he's in this position of power. He probably does know what the library is.
Yep.
But he doesn't want anything to mess that up. He's got a good thing going on here.
Back on Hoth, McCoy seems to be coming around now, but he's still pretty out of it. So Spock and Zarabeth go into the other room, and she takes off her woolly jumper, revealing a very 1960s Star Trek cave woman outfit.
Okay, it's not that warm in there, is it? Because she's half naked. So you go out in the snow with no layers? Didn't your mom teach you? You gotta have layers.
Yeah, you can't wear your bikini and then just your winter coat, which is what this woman is doing. Did you read about this outfit?
Mm-mm.
Apparently, despite having done this on every third episode for the past 2 7/8 seasons, the network censors forbade them from showing Hartley's navel. Which is why this cave woman outfit is side cut out kind of thing.
Man, they showed so much navel. They showed side boob.
Why is this episode different? Yeah.
Side pussy in some cases when these women, there's no way they had on any underwear bottoms. There's no way. So that's weird that happened.
So Gene, when he wrote the series Genesis 2, which never got a pilot, didn't get off the ground, he cast Hartley in Genesis 2 and gave her character 2 belly buttons and was like, the network owes me one. Gene, you old dog.
Good for him.
Wouldn't that suck if that was the reason it didn't go off the ground? If Genesis 2 if only you had one navel on that alien woman.
No, I'm pretty sure. Was there ever any sort of effort to make that come to life, Genesis 2?
Like since his passing? Like recently?
I mean, it exists somewhere, yeah.
Right. I don't think so. Zarabeth asks about this Jim person they keep talking about, and Spock explains their predicament, asking her to show him where the time portal is here in this time. She points out that McCoy is ill, and Spock goes off about how there is a possibility that McCoy might be marooned in this time if he leaves, but because McCoy's life is no longer in danger of death, that his primary duty to him has been discharged, and if Spock stays here, then nobody will be able to go help Kirk. And Zarabeth's like, that sounded like an equation, and Spock's like, of course it's an equation. Everything is math, woman.
Everything's math with me.
Didn't you know that? This is Logic 101.
But he also sounds like he's conflicted, like as if he doesn't know what to do. So it's like he's talking out loud and working out his next step in his mind. And that's not normal Spock.
Right.
You know, he's always very decisive. He knows what's up. He knows what has to happen. Spock, asks further about, okay, you said you were brought here as a prisoner. And she tells him why. And I still don't get the reason. She said, choosing my kinsmen unwisely. That's like choosing your family. I'm not sure. But either way, she ended up, some of the people that she was involved with, there was a plot to kill Zor Khan, which I think it's ironic. His name is Khan, last name Khan.
Right. We do that a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
This time, we've heard this name twice now, but this time, that name shakes something loose in Spock's brain. Brain and brain. What is brain?
Brain.
He remembers that name. Yeah. I've heard
he
that
read their
name
history so quickly.
Of course.
He's only in the library a few minutes.
Zarabeth says Zor Khan wasn't satisfied with just executing the ones who tried to kill him. He set out to destroy the entire family using the Atavachron or Atavachron. How do you pronounce that fucking word? Atavachron.
Atavachron. That's what they were saying.
Using the Atavachron to send them to places in time where no one would ever find them. Speaking of the Atavachron, once you go through it, it fucks up your physiology in such a way that you can never go back or you'll die.
Just then, McCoy is awake and asks, where are we?
McCoy is annoyed that Spock's still here flirting with Zarabeth instead of looking for Kirk. So Spock has to explain for us a second time that they're all trapped here. Do you think at this point, all of the fuss about this Atavachron changing you in some way to be in sync with the time period that you're going to or whatever was a callback to that moment when they left the library and A to Z was hollering about, wait, you haven't been prepared yet?
I didn't get it.
Did you make the connection? No?
No. Not until way down when they were in the Kirk's jail cell. No,
Okay.
I didn't. I didn't get it. I was like, the thing I'm thinking is, how are they going to get out of this situation? Nobody can go back. They're in two separate worlds. Kirk can go to the brick wall, and then they can go to the rock to talk to each other. Somehow that portal is open.
Oh, God.
But I would be like, I'd risk it. I'm wondering if they're going to just risk it and try to go back, because they always try to get home. That's their thing.
Despite not having a tricorder, somehow we get a Kirk's log here. He's been accused of witchcraft, and, we all know how that ends.
Yeah.
Back in the jail cell, the sheriff of Nottingham comes in to let the winch out of her cell for some reason, and they leave.
I think she's a repeat offender, and she's just in there to sleep it off or something,
Right,
and then they
okay.
just let her go. Some other jailer comes down to give Kirk some water. How nice of him. And Kirk manages to grab him through the bar, twist his arm, grab his keys, open the door, pull him in, knock him out, drag him in the corner,
Yeah.
close the door.
Bam, 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 done.
I know, right? And then he's now in the cell. He closes himself in the cell with the door unlocked because here comes the judge again.
Here comes the judge.
Here comes the judge. Everybody knows that. Oh my God, what are we smoking today?
The same stuff I always smoke.
Now, everybody know I am the judge.
So the judge doesn't know that his door is unlocked. And the judge comes down yelling for the jailer. And Kirk takes this opportunity to say, look, I'm being falsely accused. You know that that's not true. And the judge is acting like, I can't be involved in this. I'll make sure that you have a good tribunal, you know. But your matter of your witchcraft has to be decided. But he knows damn well that there are no such thing as witches. And I'm thinking he's got a cushy position here and he doesn't want to like endanger that. So he's going to go with the whole you're a witch charade.
And Kirk has it figured out that he's a future person too, that he knows and is just, you know, he's trying to fit in and play the part around here.
Yeah. So what Judge doesn't know is his door's open. So Kirk opens the door, he grabs him, he's like, oh shit, and pulls him in to his cell. And of course he sees the jailer lying there unconscious on the floor. And that's kind of when Kirk puts a little heat on him to like, look, you know that this is wrong. And then Judge starts telling him, please don't say anything. I'm begging you. Look, I don't want to get burned. But I'll do everything I can to help you. But normally, if you go through the portal, you can't go back.
Yeah, this is where Kirk learns about we can't go back through the portal. But we also learn that without having been prepared by A to Z, that they will die in this time within a few hours. So they've got to get back to the portal. And now he's prepared to help Kirk go back to the future.
Back in the cave, McCoy's like, Zarabeth, you've got a beautiful cock. I mean, you're you're a beautiful cook. So Kirk is awake and she's feeding him and he's trying to flirt. He assumes that no woman would ever want Spock. So he thinks that, you know, she's real desperate. And he's kind of like trying to flirt with her, but also putting Spock down at the same time. That Spock is delinquent in matters of, you know, telling you you're beautiful and giving you compliments and stuff.
She's laying it right back on him. She stares at Spock all doe-eyed and bats her eyelashes. Oh, I hadn't noticed. This kicks off an old school Spock v. McCoy battle, although this one seems to have a tinge of romantic jealousy attached on both sides, which is surprising for Spock. So whatever's affecting them is really affecting them.
Yeah, that whole exchange about Dr. McCoy is making progress, and then McCoy says, well, Mr. Spock has been practicing medicine without a license. And then Spock takes a dig at him about you're the worst patient on the Enterprise. And that reminds McCoy, oh man, I wonder where the Enterprise is. Spock knows it's 5,000 years in the future. Zarabeth leaves, and because McCoy gets all like down and she takes the cup or whatever and leaves. In typical McCoy fashion, he always accuses Spock of not trying hard enough. And does he not get any thanks for saving your sorry life because you wanted him to leave you, which I would agree with, and he didn't leave him in the snow. But he's saying it's like you're not trying, Spock. Really?
Spock has to explain to him 3 times. Listen here, you stupid country doctor. We can't go home. We can't leave this time. We are trapped here forever. What part of forever do you not understand? Do you hear the words
that are coming out of my mouth?
McCoy accuses Spock of wanting to stay, because of that pretty woman. And Spock's like, yeah, well, when you were slurping her soup a few minutes ago, you seemed pretty happy to stay too.
And then I love this part because I was literally like cheering and yelling at the TV.
McCoy starts in with, listen here, you pointed ear Vulcan, but for the first time ever, Spock finally stands up to him, yanks him up by the collar, and he's like, shoves him up against the lockers. And he's like, listen, you motherfucker. I don't like that. I never have, and I regret not whooping your ass sooner. Yeah, get it, Spock.
And just like any bully, McCoy's like, wait, you're fighting back? What's happened to you? He's like, and Spock says nothing that shouldn't have happened a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. He's right.
But then McCoy just has this weird look on his face as they fade to the next scene. And he's like, long ago, of course. As if he's figured something out.
Right.
I still didn't get it. At this point.
Back in the 17th century, the judge leads Kirk back to the brick wall where he entered this time. And after feeling up the walls a little bit, Kirk finds one that his hand disappears into. And the judge scurries off, and Kirk sort of wipes his brow like his head is hurting. And then,
like he's not starting not to feel well. I thought maybe that was real subtle, but I was like, did that mean something?
Yep.
I don't know.
And he slips through the portal back into the library. He calls for Spock and McCoy, no answer. So he pulls his StarTech and he calls up Scotty for an update on the Nova. T-minus 17 minutes to the sun blowing up.
They've been there for like, what, 2.5 hours already?
Yeah.
And he's like, we can't come back. And he's like, I knew you had to be in trouble. I knew you were up to, I knew something had to be wrong. Y'all got into some shit.
So he hangs up the phone and he calls out for A to Z. And A to Z's like, oh, thank goodness you came back. Let's do the thing where I change your physiology so that you can live in the past and never return. And Kirk's like, look, my friends and I are from another planet. I'm sorry we lied to you about that. We don't belong here in the present, in the past, and in 17 minutes, there won't be a future here. So Kirk's going to try to find the CD-ROM that McCoy was looking at, but A to Z stands in his way. And they almost kick off a Star Trek fight, but Kirk takes him out real easily. And then we do the comedy bit again. He turns around and there's another A to Z.
Okay. I was like, yeah. A to Z comes again, and he's like, you're obviously a suicidal maniac. I don't understand what you're trying to do. But Kirk tries to reason with him and is like, look, if you help me, neither of us have to die. You can do what you need to do, and you can help me find my friends.
A to Z pulls what looks like a 2-inch deep well socket from his sleeve and points it at Kirk like a weapon.
My ears perked up at 2 inch.
Oh my.
Kirk says, you really don't want to hurt me, surely. You know, you've been trying to save my life, so put that thing away. But of course, put that thing away. But he shoots him.
In the cave playset, Zarabeth is in the midst of I'm actually kind of glad you're here, you know. We're both kind of here against our wills. And Spock laments not being able to return her to her own time. But she's like, oh, that's not it. If I have to stay here, it is what it is. But it is very fucking lonely here. And if I don't get whatever you Vulcans have for a penis up into my guts in the next 3 minutes, I'm going to go Nova like our son.
Oh my gosh. She's feeding him, and she brought him a big plate of some meat. And I forgot this about Vulcans, is that they are sort of vegetarian.
Yeah.
They don't, and so he eats it to please her, but then he starts to like it, and he's like, I can't believe I'm eating animal flesh and I'm liking this. What's happening to me?
This whole thing quickly escalates to a kiss as the string music swells. But Spock pulls away for a minute and picks a piece of turkey leg from his teeth, and he says, this is why I am vegan.
Oh, you got any floss around here? Do you fish bones? What? You know.
He scoops her up into his arms and smiles and starts like sweet talking her.
Man, he's about to get some 5,000-year-old boom boom, okay? He calls her beautiful, which again is something he just doesn't do.
Back in the library, this was another great Star Trek comedy moment. You know those flatbed carts you get at the big box home improvement store?
Yeah. Or no, you know where you've seen them is the storage units. Like if you go to a storage unit,
yes,
you go grab the cart that's flat.
Yeah. So
that's what he put him on.
Kirk is on one of those carts being shoved comedically towards the portal by TOS.
And I'm wondering at this point, because I have a question. So while he was out, did he prepare him, quote unquote? Because
if he's just going to shove him back into the past, but he's not been prepared, then he's just going to keep coming back through the door, right?
So I'm wondering if he could prepared him. Anyway, Kirk jumps off the flatbed before it goes through. So it goes, somebody in some time period is going to get a flatbed coming through a wall.
Yeah, those 17th century Cockney London people are going to really think there's some specters.
Yeah. He gets off and he somehow grabs A to Z and gets his hands behind his back and with the other hand somehow calls Scotty.
Yeah, he's a show off this episode. This is the second time that he's like single-handedly held someone while he did a whole bunch of MacGyver shit in his other hand.
That's true. Yeah, he unlocked his own jail cell while holding the jailer, and now he's got A to Z in one hand and calling Scotty in the other, saying stand by to beam them up because he's still trying to find Spock and McCoy.
Of course, Kirk gives Scotty the order not to wait for them. If the sun starts to blow, get the fuck out of there. And he coerces A to Z to help find the others. Frozen waste, really windy, something like that. And A to Z says, well, it must be the Sarpedian Ice Age, 5,000 years ago. So off they go to look.
Back in the cave, McCoy is the voice of reason, I guess. And he tells Spock that he's lied to him, and that's something that Vulcans don't do. And then McCoy's like, no, you've given me the facts as you know them, but maybe Zarabeth wasn't telling you the whole truth. And I guess that did not really occur to Spock. And it honestly did not occur to me either.
McCoy turns to Zarabeth and starts yelling at her to tell Spock the truth. Even gets down and like has his hands at her neck, which I really don't like, and it was very jarring.
But I appreciate Spock's like, oh, no, you motherfucking don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Spock's jealousy goes to like 12.
Yeah, his protectiveness and his jealousy. And he jacks McCoy up against the wall for a second time. And I just loved every minute of this. I'm so sick of him. Even if he might have been right, I don't care.
So McCoy starts talking the answer into him. Because their bodies weren't prepared, Spock is reverting to what Vulcans were 5,000 years prior. Warlike barbarians who nearly killed themselves off.
I went, oh, I'm like, that's why he's acting this way. I mean, I like literally didn't get it. And I think this is still a stretch, but whatever.
Yeah. Spock turns to Zarabeth and demands the truth. And she doesn't know if they can return or not. She only knows that she can't. And McCoy's like,
screw you guys, I'm going home.
He grabs a fur coat thing and he's off into the snow again. Back in the library, they're going through different discs, CD-ROMs, and they put it in the machine, and then Kirk goes over and yells their names. Nobody answers. Okay, it's not that one.
Hello,
keep trying.
hello.
Keep trying. Hello. And then back in the Ice Age, McCoy's made it back to the cliff where they first came through, and Zarabeth and Spock are also on the cliff too, and they're looking and they're searching on the rocks and they can't find anything, and Spock is even still being concerned about his health and saying, you're too ill to be out here, give it up, just stop, Back in the library, they're doing a bunch of back and forth.
Yeah.
But back in the library, they do another disc, and at this time it's of some snowy tundra with wind blowing, and I think that was the one. So Spock goes over to the door and starts yelling their names. What a coincidence. They both happen to be near the, at the right place.
This was fun too. They play Marco Polo
Mm-hmm.
to get Spock and McCoy to find the opening. Marco. Okay, it was over that way. We moved down the wall this way. Yeah.
Oh my.
Spock doesn't want to leave Zarabeth, and he's trying to make like every millisecond last here because he has to leave without her. So he shoves McCoy toward the portal, but McCoy just slams, he eats it face first into the rock.
I laughed my ass off. I had to watch it again after the end. I'm like, oh, I know why he did that. And so then I wound it back because he was ready to push McCoy through and stay there.
Yeah.
Now that we found love, what are we gonna do? and yeah, he was just gonna stay with her.
They quickly determine the reason the portal won't let them through is because they went in at the same time. They have to go back at the same time. The clock is ticking, and Spock takes one last tender moment with Zarabeth before she walks away, and he and McCoy jump back through the portal together. Once they're through, A to Z swaps CDs like super fast and kind of knocks everybody out of his way as he runs to jump through the portal. He's like, I'm out of here. Fuck this. Kirk steps off to the side to call up the Enterprise to prepare to beam up, leaving Spock and McCoy to do chair chat on location. Spock tells McCoy he doesn't need to observe him any further.
He's like, stop looking at me.
Yeah. And McCoy's like, yeah, but Spock, it did happen. Like, you got to deal with the emotions of what happened. And Spock says, well, it was 5,000 years ago, and she's dead now. Dead and buried long ago. Poor Spock.
And then they beam up and
warp away. Yeah.
On to their last one more adventure.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'm happy the affair is over.
Me too.
A most annoying, emotional episode.
Yeah, but you know, I learned something today.
When dreams become more important than reality, you give up travel, building, creating.
One jealous god, if all this makes a god.
By sparing your helpless enemy, who surely would have destroyed you, you demonstrated the advanced trait of mercy.
Frankly, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed. You must admit, it is an unsophisticated expression.
I don't know what you got. Maybe I'll think of something as you're talking.
I didn't. I really wish that this episode had been more about Zarabeth and her need for companionship.
Yeah.
I think like an out of his mind Spock plus a desperate lonely woman equals great television. And
yeah.
I wish it had been more about that. Like, is this just a playful romp through a time machine? Is that what we did here?
Yeah. When you bring up a good point, and there is something that she said about like, this isn't a life. I should have died or something. The loneliness is not worth living. And is that worse than death? Like if you were, marooned someplace and never had another soul to talk to.
Yeah.
And now their planet is going to blow up. So this was her last chance to get someone to talk to.
What do you think of the idea of sending people into the past at the brink of the end of your planet as a solution, as a way to cheat death?
It doesn't make any sense because, well, okay, the way they did it, they don't forget.
Right.
So if they're around people, they have, I feel like they're breaking that law of whatever that time is.
They could continuum.
Yeah, because the law of time travel, you can change the future.
Yeah. And knowing that your son is going to go nova at X year, would you not go back to the past and be like, okay, y'all, we got to be on, spaceships out of here.
Right.
By a certain date.
Exactly. Or do something really evil with that knowledge. Yeah. Become a millionaire and you build a spaceship and only save a certain amount of people and fuck everybody else. I mean, yeah. But because they obviously didn't tamper with their memory. So, yeah.
The stuck in two different times gimmick that they used made me think of the Star Trek Prodigy Supernova game that I had been playing in my post-COVID recovery time.
Nice.
There are some levels in that game, and this would have been a neat idea too. There are some levels in that game where your two characters get put into different time periods in the same location, and the past person has to do certain things to make a box fall off a ledge so that the box will then fall in the future, and the future person can advance through the level.
Oh, cool.
And then the future person has to do something that helps the past person be able to move forward, and there's like this teamwork through time difference.
Time. Yeah.
That would have been a fun thing.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been able to articulate that in an hour.
This episode was not a fun thing. I didn't like this one.
It was weird. I mean, at this point, the only thing I enjoyed, I'm sorry, but the only thing I enjoyed was McCoy getting his comeuppance from
so good.
Spock
Yeah.
saying, "I'm sick of your bullying and your name calling and I'm sick of your shit." That was the only thing that was very satisfying to me.
I wonder like how intentional that was. Did you read anything about that?
Mm-mm.
I wonder if that moment was intentional to maybe recognize this would be my hope, right? That maybe we're recognizing the racist tone that McCoy has when he goes on his "you green-blooded, pointed-eared son of a bitch" rants, and that we're going to make a conscious effort not to do that anymore. And of course, it's right at the end of the season, but was that the writer's way of saying, maybe this wasn't a good look, and let's not do that anymore? But he does it again in the movies, right? Yeah. So maybe I don't know. Look at me trying to give a little too much credit to McCoy where none is due.
Yeah, don't do that.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
All right, we want to thank our patrons. We want to thank all of our patrons. We especially want to thank our founding admirals. A special thanks to Russell, Ali, Peter, Sarah, and Sherry.
Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
Greetings, savvy profit seekers of the Alpha Quadrant. Your ears have stumbled upon the lucrative opportunity of a lifetime, Humanist Trek. Now, don't just stand there like a packwid waiting for enlightenment. Let's talk business. First, unleash your linguistic prowess and leave us a review. It's like planting the seeds of profit in the fertile soils of the podcasting market. Smart, right? Now, for those truly desiring a spot in the Ferengi Hall of Commerce, consider becoming a patron. It's not charity. It's an investment in the future of comedic prosperity. Early access, exclusive profit-branded merch, and bonus content so valuable, you'll feel like you discovered a cache of hidden gold-pressed latinum. Don't be a rule of acquisition violator. Head to patreon.com/humanisttrek and pledge as low as $3 a month. The return on your investment? Priceless laughter! And the satisfaction of knowing you're supporting the galaxy's next big profit venture. Profit is our mission, and with your help, we'll be laughing all the way to Grand Nagus' bank.
Let me remind you that taking business advice from a female is a violation of Ferengi law. Shame on you!
I hope you're satisfied. I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
Starfleet Academy instructor Becca is back with the answer to this week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge. For all our yesterdays, what was our question?
Which of the missing 4 cast regulars can be heard over a communicator in this episode?
I did not write down our answers. What were
Sarah
our answers?
said Scotty and Ali said Sulu.
Okay.
It's Scotty. It's gotta be. Okay, what's the answer?
It's Scotty.
Correct.
I'll take it. Next time on Humanist Trek, it's the final episode of the original series, Season 3, Episode 24, Turnabout Intruder. A woman from Kirk's past exchanges bodies with him and takes control of the ship. I do remember this episode. We've talked about it at some length in some of our episode opens because...
I vaguely remember it.
Yeah. Okay. Because I remember the cassette I had. I talked about the cassette with the bloopers and stuff. Anyway, there was a lot from this episode. What's our question for Turnabout Intruder?
This episode was originally scheduled to broadcast on March 28th, 1969, but it didn't air until June 3rd. What event coverage preempted the original run?
March 1969? What the fuck happened in March 1969? I wasn't there.
June, and it didn't March, it's April, May, June. So it didn't, I have no idea.
Oh, there's a big gap.
Well,
between...
That's because it was a season finale, so think they probably... Series finale. Like, I couldn't find information on why there was a gap.
There's a big old gap.
But I think
all
it's
our
maybe
yesterdays.
Because they didn't have anything planned after that episode, and because it got preempted, they had to put it down kick it down the river.
Okay, so March 14th was All Our Yesterdays, and Turnabout Intruder didn't go until June 3rd. So what the hell preempted it and kicked the can down the road? What happened in March 1969?
Preempted meaning it was supposed to come on TV and...
Did we kick off a war?
Did we go to the moon? Didn't we go to the moon? But wasn't it in April? Was it April 1960 in the 60s? I don't know. 1969. Didn't we go to the moon?
I feel really bad that I don't know this.
I wasn't alive. But that's no excuse because you should know your history. But
yeah,
you weren't alive either. So
no. God damn it.
What happened in 1969? It had to be a special broadcast. What did people want to see on TV? It had to be the big thing that was happening was some sort of moon landing, man.
I don't know. Is it moon landing? Was that 1969?
It wasn't. Something was 1969, but I want to say it was like April though. So.
Because in the timeline, it would have been March 20 something, right? What's 14 plus 7?
21.
March 21st was when this should have aired.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what happened March 21st, 1969 that bumped it out of its time slot?
Was there, so...
Listeners are screaming at their phones right now.
Not necessarily.
We can't Google, guys, so we don't know. But was there something going on with the war? Was there a Vietnam War or...
State of the Union address. The fucking president comes on and all 3 channels are fucked.
I bet you that's... Well then, okay, so...
No, because that's planned.
We just had our State of the Union address. Then, wasn't it?
Okay, so Becca's right. That's planned. So we go to war and the president has to interrupt the broadcast to announce that we are going to war. Was that Vietnam? Fuck.
I want to say it was Vietnam. Okay.
We're going to lose a lot of cred on this one, but I think that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with like the announcement that we're going to war.
I think, because, I just know like all the college campuses and stuff like that, people who are against war were pretty vocal about it, and the peace-loving hippies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else.
All right, that's what we're going with then. Locking it in. And if you want to play along, you know how to do that. Go to your social media, share this episode, use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, put your answer, and we'll pick out a winner. Next time on Humanist Trek, Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 24, Turnabout Intruder.
Diftor Smoothma.
Kapla!
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Trek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.